There have been some questions about this angle block that I use in the vise while I'm working on various figure carving projects like the dragon we're currently doing. So I thought I would just address this one tool today and just explain what it is and how it works. The whole purpose of the angle block is just to hold your work at an angle that you can see it better, and it supports where you're hammering when you're using some of these figure carving tools. By having something under it, it's much easier to get the work done efficiently than having this, just trying to clamp it in the vise this way, which doesn't really work very well. You'd end up driving this down in the vise and scoring it up, and this makes life much easier for you. Although you can do some of this at the anvil or under a treadle hammer, and you wouldn't necessarily need the angle block. Now in use, this thing gets hot because you've got hot material on there, so be careful if you take it out of here. Either wear a glove or use tongs or something. This is just 1/4 inch thick angle iron. On mine it is 4 inches across the working face and 3 inches across the other face. Nothing magical about that. It's a handy angle for me, but you could use a 4x4 or 3x3 and have a 45-degree angle. It's just whatever works. This was just what I had on hand when I made this. I've probably been using this for 20 years or so. It's just not a big deal. There's no critical measurements. It is welded to another plate so that it has something solid to rest in the vise. Has a little leg on here to keep it from racking and twisting the welds. But in use, it's just this bar right here that sets in the vise, and then you clamp the piece and the angle block together because of that bar. There's no special hardy shank or anything else, and it's the clamping of the vise that holds everything together. So you're clamping both the work and the angle block at the same time. On the back side, it has a vertical tab and a tab on the bottom. This vertical tab keeps it from pushing forward and you can't drive it out of the vise in use. And the little tab underneath just hooks under the vise jaw right here, and you can't tip it out in use, and it keeps it from falling out and falling on the floor when you're working on it. I have seen some that put a spring in under here. It has to be completely under here so it's not in the way of the work when you're clamping your work in here, but you can put a spring in to hold it tight. I've never found that necessary. This doesn't really want to fall out. Even if it gets a little loose, it still stays there. It's not a big deal. But you could put a spring in if you wanted to. Now this end needs to cantilever out of the vise so that when you clamp everything up, you're clamping the work about the center of the jaw, and that's better for your vise. This is a little off center to one side, but not bad. If you clamped it all out here on one side, you'd be racking your vise jaws every time, and this keeps the pressure even. It's better for your vise, holds the work better, just everything works better that way. That's really about all I can think to say about this thing. They're really quite simple, easy to fabricate yourself if you've got welding equipment. I think that I have seen a few of these for sale someplace, I don't know exactly where, but I would be surprised if on eBay or maybe some of the blacksmithing suppliers have a version of this. If you weld, they're plenty easy to make, but if you don't weld, buying one might be the way to go. I have also made one of these, a much smaller one that I used in a little 3-inch vise as part of a traveling tool set that I took to demonstrations and such, that was just a 2-inch solid block that I cut at an angle and welded the bar on the bottom of. No real benefit to that. It was just what I had available at the time because I didn't have any good heavy angle iron in the smaller size. This thing is 4 inches wide. It doesn't need to be that wide. If it was 3 inches wide or even 2 inches wide, it would probably hold up everything I've ever wanted to work on it. Just remember to try and center the workpiece on the block, so that means your holding bar needs to be a little off center. This one's about 1 3/4 from one side and 2 1/4 from the other, so it's ideal for a 1/2 inch bar. These days I do this kind of stuff more in 3/4 to 1 inch bars, so it would have been better offset a little bit. Nothing very critical about this, like so many blacksmithing tools. Make it to suit the materials you have, and it's probably going to work just fine. If you've been curious about this tool, I hope this video answered your questions. Give it a thumbs up if you can. Love it if you hit that subscribe button. Then head out to the shop, make something, stay safe, wear your safety glasses, and we'll see you for the next one.